Well, good morning. My name's Waldo. You found me. I'm right here, streaming on Kick and YouTube. And this is my friend
I
Thomas. Say hello.
am eating a sandwich. My name's Thomas.
Thomas is eating a sandwich. This is now a sandwich stream. Everybody in chat, tell us what your favorite sandwich is, the ingredients, kind of bread.
I'll tell you what my sandwich order used to be
Oh, yeah?
when I
What is it?
ate at the greatest sandwich shop of all time,
Mm-hmm.
Publix.
Public. Okay.
Uh, let's see, it was they're Italian,
Mm-hmm.
and I would have them put lettuce, tomato, uh, banana pepper,
Mm-hmm.
the boar's head sub sauce,
Okay.
and mayonnaise both sides. Um, it was Swiss cheese and oil and vinegar and salt and pepper. Delicious.
It's a very large order, yeah. There was I went to a place in Crescent City, California. Um, it closed, but it was also an Italian place, and they would do uh, garlic bread, and then on that garlic bread they put like a spicy Italian sausage, marinara, and then like peppers and onions,
Mm,
and it was fantastic.
hell yeah.
But they closed to
You
being a
know,
little mom and pop shop kind of place.
any Better Debate Bros sandwich stream would have to include the question: is a hot dog a sandwich?
A hot dog is a hot dog.
Mm. But what is a sandwich? Is it a piece of meat between two pieces of bread?
Um,
Because that's what a hot dog is.
I think the hinge of the bun makes a difference, but the tubular uh, meat turns it into a hot dog. I would assume.
Mm.
I think your
But
your tube
a
meat, if
meatball
you're
sub is a
not tube meat,
sandwich, and that
yeah,
has a hinge on the bun.
it might have a hinge, but it doesn't have a tubular meat. If you got
That's true.
hinge and tubular meat, I think you're talking hot dog.
Okay.
If you chop your sausage all up, if you chopped up the hot dog into little bits and then put it in there, it wouldn't be a tube meat anymore.
Interesting. So it's
You-
a tube meat that makes it
I think so. That's what I
okay.
think is most important anyway. Um, I recognize that the entire thing is just semantics, but yeah, um, most processed meats are in a tub. Gross. Tub meat.
Well, I'm glad that we've cleared that up, for our audience, who I'm sure was very curious.
Yeah, they had to know. Where do we weigh in on this very important, very valuable debate that's taken over the entire internet. Uh,
Arguably more important than what we're about to talk about.
Arguably more important because what we call that specific piece of lunch is highly important. Many people have died in the hot dog sandwich internet war. The historians will write entire volumes about the people that died because of the hot dog sandwich, not a sandwich debate online. It's a very complex issue. Many sides, believers on all sides, but you know what I always say is that belief is the problem.
Hmm.
If anybody's watching, type stuff into chat. Give us any links to the news or any important goings on that you think we should take a look at and give our opinions on. And if we don't have an opinion, I'll just make one up. That's my promise to you. If you put a link in chat and I don't have an opinion, I'll make something up. KVP doesn't like the idea of a sausage sandwich. Well, it's Italian sausage with marinara on it. It's delicious. I mean, basically, if you go to an Italian restaurant anyway, you order sausage and peppers. They give you sausage and peppers and some garlic bread. You're just turning it into a sandwich, so you
They
can eat
usually
it.
serve that with pasta.
There's some pasta too. Yeah, I've had it with just sausage and peppers and pasta, but I've had sometimes garlic bread with it as well,
Mm.
or breadsticks or something along those lines. So It's just taking the thing that they already do and turning it into a sandwich so you can eat it for lunch real fast and then get back to work.
If you put the pasta into the sandwich with the hot dog or
Mm-hmm.
the bratwurst or the Italian sausage,
Your tube
whatever it
meat.
is,
Okay.
does it now become a sandwich,
Mm,
or is it just a
is it
fancier?
is it tube meat? Is the meat in tube in one of those casings,
Probably.
or has the casing been chopped and mashed?
I mean, if it's an Italian sausage, I mean, I wouldn't see myself putting a chopped up Italian sausage in a sandwich.
Oh, that was the sandwich I was describing first. Was yeah, chopped
Ah,
up
okay.
like Italian. It was chopped up Italian sausage. It wasn't a hot dog. It was Italian sausage, but then they chopped it, put the sauce on it, and then some onions, some peppers, threw that in between two pieces of garlic bread, and then you ate it as a sandwich for lunch.
It was like an Italian bratwurst kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's why I wouldn't call it a hot dog. It wasn't in tube shape. If it were still in tube
Mm.
shape, if they had not chopped it up and they just put that sauce on there, it would have been basically the same thing. But you would need
If you
a
put a bratwurst
hinge.
in a
You would
bun, is that a
need
hot dog?
if you put a bratwurst in a bun, yeah.
Huh. I don't think I'd ever call that a hot dog.
And if it has that hinge and the tube meat, I mean, why is the hinge there on the hot dogs to keep the tube meat from rolling out?
Hmm.
Why is the hinge
But
there on the meatball sub to keep the meatballs from rolling out?
I would say that the hinge is a quality component of any sandwich to prevent, so you can eat from one side and not have it spill out on the other side. Whatever
If
mixture
they're flat, you don't
things you
need the
do.
hinge.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about hinged bread. You can slice whatever bread you want. If it's flat, I mean lunch meat, flat. I've never had a piece of sliced ham roll out of a sandwich, you know, because it's flat.
Well, it
Gee,
depends on how thick your sandwich is. I mean, if you ever had a burger that's very thick,
mm-hmm,
then and you eat the burger, and
mm-hmm.
as you eat it, all of your components inside the
Are
middle start to
smooshing out the
slide
back.
backward.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I've had that happen before, and that would be uh, benefited by a hinge. I could see that.
exactly.
I could see that being benefited by the hinge. I don't think that makes it a hot dog though. I think there are two components to the hot dog: your tube meat and your hinge.
Hmm. Well, maybe we'll have to revisit this discussion some other time.
I know, because we are supposed to talk about the news. Um, I make a promise to the audience. We're not just going to read the news to you. We're going to feel the news with you. You like that as a tagline? I'm working on it. We're going to feel the news with you. No comment. Okay, good. Let's swap over to this and get that up. And we'll do the window capture. Swap it over to there. That's not where I wanted to start. I want to start here. Donald Trump cancels press conference on election fraud claims, citing attorney's advice. So the press conference he was going to do this coming Monday, he has canceled. And that makes me sad. I really wanted him to finally convince me that he won in 2020.
Hmm. Well,
He was going to claim all the new evidence of fraud in Georgia in 2020, the presidential election. That's what he was
he must
going to
have
do.
uh, he must have found some new lawyers
Well,
because if it
they've
was
convinced
still
him.
old Rudy, I'm sure he'd be full bore ahead with this press conference.
Yeah, yeah. I think Rudy might. I don't think Rudy is his lawyer at the moment. He's not on the court documents as an acting attorney. He is an attorney, but he is not acting as defense for Donald Trump. MAGA, make attorneys get attorneys. That's what it stands for.
Actually, as a side note, even attorneys do get attorneys.
Yeah, I know.
Uh, they attorneys are smart enough to know that that representing yourself in court is a really dumb thing to do,
Right. It
even
is a
if they're
dumb idea.
attorneys themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
If you're ever in court, just public service announcement, and you think it's a good idea to represent yourself, it's not. I know it's expensive to get an attorney. Get one. It will save you in the long run.
Right. and that's what Rudy's doing. But I think there are payment issues for him as well. Uh, Donald Trump isn't footing the bill for everybody, and that's causing some shakeup and some confusion among his co-defendants there. So, what does Trump write? Rather than releasing the report on the rigged and stolen Georgia 2020 presidential election on Monday, my lawyers would prefer putting this, I believe, irrefutable and overwhelming evidence of election fraud and irregularities in formal legal filings as we fight to dismiss this great disgraceful indictment. So, that is, he was going to just release all the evidence on Monday, but no, he's going to save it for the trial because he watches court TV shows and think that evidence is admitted last second as a bombshell. And that's not how courts actually work. All the evidence has to be entered ahead of time, and both sides have to have access to all of the evidence and see it and know what it is and take a look at it. There are no bombshell surprises uh, in the actual trials.
All right. I mean, you have discovery and whatnot.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
If they want this overwhelming evidence to be in the trial, they have to submit it to the court and let the prosecution see it and know what it is
right.
ahead of time. That's just how the courts work. There will be no surprises. I mean, there's going to be surprises, but there's no surprise evidence. There's no surprise witnesses. It's a TV thing. But I suspect that Trump only watches TV. In preparation for his trials, he's just watching a bunch of TV.
Think that they're going to try the stunt from all of the legal shows where at the last minute a lawyer walks in and bursts through the doors of the courthouse holding up a big stack of papers saying, I
Yeah,
have evidence, I have proof that
here's the
this man is
proof.
innocent.
Yeah, that's what they're gonna do. He's gonna have one of his guys. He's ready for the bombshell. He's picked out one of his lawyers and is like, hey, you're my bombshell guy. Okay, who's doing the bombshell? We need a bombshell. Um, One guy walks in at the end. Ah, Your Honor, I have the proof right here. And then he walks in and he slams it on the desk and it's a giant file. And then everybody's like, oh my gosh. And then the bombshell goes off. Yeah,
Incredible.
that's
Made for
hard,
TV.
made for TV, and we're gonna get to watch it all. What do you think on the idea of it being televised in Georgia? I think the federal one should be televised as well. I'll tell you
Uh,
why if you want, but what do you think?
I mean, sure, could be entertaining.
Well, I think it's important to uh, keep Trump from lying. If the judge says overruled on something that ought to be overruled, we'll all get to watch it. But if the judge says overruled and there are no cameras, Donald Trump will go onto the TV that night and say, this crooked judge overruled our evidence, and he'll make up a bunch of lies. And we won't be able to definitely prove that he is lying because we'll have to wait until months later when the court documents come out and somebody reads the stenographer's things. And then they'll have to be translated through the news media. I think specifically seeing him act up in court would be good for my side anyway, uh, and bad for him. Uh, there's also a
I
sec.
wonder if he was he
Mhm.
the one that pushed for the cameras, or was that something that was pushed
He
for by the prosecution?
Georgia just does it anyway. Georgia always puts that stuff on camera. They always have.
Oh, okay.
The federal case with Jack Smith for Jan 6 has it up to the judge. The judge can make a decision on that. The judge can say, yes, it's important that the American people see it, and I choose to let them in, or no, this is a solemn courtroom and this is not a circus. Uh, the cameras turn it into a circus, though. I suspect that Donald Trump is a game show TV host. So when he's in front of a camera and he knows he's in front of a camera, I bet he acts differently than when there are no cameras around.
Probably.
And in the it's in his best interest, honestly, to not have those cameras in there because then he can one go out and lie about it every night, over exaggerate the things that went wrong with him, and play the victim card all day, every day. Um, and he doesn't have to he doesn't have to act the part as much if there is no camera. If there's a camera, he has to be on stage. He has to be Donald Trump. He has to be Waldo. He has to be that stand-up comic that's on stage because everybody's going to be watching. So uh,
I could see it. It might be a smarter play for him to maintain that reserved composure, so people can go, oh, he keeps himself, reined in when the the chips on the table, and I don't know,
oh, I don't think he can.
go either way.
I don't think he can do that. I don't think he's capable of even controlling himself. Uh, Maybe he can rein it in front of a judge when there are no cameras, but I think he can't rein it in when there's a camera involved. That's just me, armchair psychologying him.
Fair enough.
And I am not a psychologist, no matter how much I claim to be. The state has said I am not a psychologist ever since the incident, but I'm not legally allowed to talk about the incident. Let's see. Swap back over here. Another ad. Oh, you want to do? Oh, also, um, it's been officially announced that Donald Trump will not be going to the Republican uh, debate. He is going to hold his own interview with good old Tucker Carlson at the exact same time.
Par for the course.
Yeah, I think that is a good choice for him, I suppose, because you mentioned it last time that avoiding the debate might look weak, but if it looks weak and he's talking to Tucker Carlson at the same time, his fans like that. They'll overlook the weakness part to have their their favorite guy, the Tuckster, talk to their other favorite guy, the Trumpster.
Sorry, say again.
The his fans might overlook the weakness that you described last week or the other day, and because their favorite guy, the Tuckster, is talking to their other favorite guy, the Trumpster.
Right.
It'll hit all of their feeling buttons. The two of them will say all of the things that make their fans feel angry and scared and happy, and they'll press all the emotional buttons. Do you want to live stream that with me, or do you want to
Maybe.
watch the actual Republican debate?
Either one's fine.
Uh, the debates are going to be a little more boring, I suspect, but we can always get the clips from Tucker later. Let's see. Let's go over here, and since we're kind of on that discussion already, um, one of the guys who's going to be at that Republican debate is Vivek Ramaswamy, and he wants to raise the voting age to 25. That seems like a dumb idea to me. Um, Under Ramaswamy's plan, Americans under 25 could only vote by joining the military, becoming a first responder, or passing a civics test. That's the sentence that I really don't like the most because it almost creates two, a second class citizen. You know, I don't like the idea of second class citizens. You're a citizen, but some people are better citizens than you, so they get more rights and uh, privileges. I worry that if I know that this isn't going to happen, but if it did, hypothetically, Ramaswamy somehow uh, wins and then gets this plan passed, and then it got uh, uh, adopted federally, that it would happen, it would start, and then he would expand it to not level 30 to age 30, and he would expand it to 35, and then he would just expand it to everybody, and the only people that could vote are military first responders or passing a civics test, and it would create a second class citizen.
I get what you're saying. I don't think that it's necessary to raise the voting age 25. That's pretty high.
Hmm.
I see the logic behind it, as they say that our brains aren't fully developed until 25 or whatever, but uh, we have to have an age at some point where we say, all right, you're an adult citizen of the country now.
Hmm.
Like,
A line has to be drawn somewhere, right? And if you're
I think 18 is probably fine. I do
okay,
think that we should have more uniformity in these ages. So like, I think that probably the smoking and drinking age should also be 21, or should also be 18.
hmm
If you can also, be drafted at 18, or enlist in the armed forces, or vote at 18, it's kind of silly that you can't go have a drink, you know?
hmm
Um,
yeah, I could definitely be on board with that. Um, I recognize that 18-year-olds are really dumb, and if they could drink beer, they would, but they do it anyway. I drank lots of beer when I was 18. Um, I did hear a joke about Oklahoma raising the drinking age to 25 because they want to limit the amount of drinking in high schoolers. Uh,
they already tried that. They raised
that's
the drinking age from
the
18 to 21
I
to
know,
limit
but
the drinking in high schools,
the
and it didn't work.
the joke is that there are 20-year-olds in there are 22-year-olds in Oklahoma high
Oh,
schools.
oh,
It's just
okay.
that I don't tell the joke very well. I probably left the part out. Come to Waldo's politics stream for lame dad jokes. Yeah, Shinsinto says they don't like the way 18 and 24-year-olds vote, so prevent them from voting. What else we got? We got uh, also at going to be at the Republican debate is our buddy Ron DeSantis. Uh, this video shows him pushing the GOP state legislatures to overturn the 2020 race. So I think I listened to this, and the audio is nightmarish. So I'm going to play this. Uh, Chat, let me know how the audio is, but it's going to suck. All right.
I would also tell them, especially if you're in those states, Republican legislatures
I
like
gotta find this real
Pennsylvania
quick and pull it up because
and Michigan and all these places,
there it is.
call your state representatives and your state senators. Under Article 2 of the Constitution, presidential electors are done by the legislatures and the schemes they create and the framework. And if there's departure from that, if they're not.
Basically, he just said the electors for the electoral college are chosen by the state legislature, and that state legislature can send any elector they want, regardless of how the votes went.
Yeah, that was a common theory in 2020.
Yeah.
That
And to be fair, lots of people pushed it when Hillary lost as well. Uh, not it wasn't elected government officials on the left pushing it or on the Dems pushing it. I don't think. I saw people in the news. I saw shit talkers like me pushing that idea back then, but I didn't think it was legal back then. Um, and I don't know if governors were pushing that idea or entire senators or Ted fucking Cruz. Uh, it was just goobers on opinion sites and goobers on Twitter. So the
Well,
the
the
idea
idea has to come from somewhere, right?
has always been around, but because it is a illegal dumb idea, smart people generally don't do it. Um, yeah, no amount of calling your representative and senator will change the votes or the vote count,
No.
and that is what Donald Trump is on trial for, pushing those state legislatures to do this thing.
Mm, is that what he's on trial for?
In Georgia, yeah, he pushed the GOP Raffensperger state legislature to overturn the 2020 race.
Interesting.
And then
Yeah.
created, yeah, and then he created an entire conspiracy to make it seem more legitimate. and then
All right.
he sent his own electors, and then those electors signed paperwork. That was the forgery thing we talked about last time, the
Right.
fake document that got created with I, whatever my name was, am the elector, and here's my document giving it to the state saying that Donald Trump won Georgia. That document is fraudulent, and it's got your name on it. You are creating fraud documents, and
Right. If they weren't selected as the electors, then
right.
they signed it. Then yeah, fucked.
Yeah, and that's several of the people that are in that Trump thing, and they did it because of this idea to legitimize this idea, and that's why it goes into conspiracy and RICO charges because that jury there in or the prosecutors there in Georgia are going to have to prove that the idea is not sound legally, and they pushed people to achieve this illegal end. And that's where your conspiracy and your RICO stuff comes from.
Well, I'm interested to watch it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch the Georgia one. Maybe
You
not
think they're
live
gonna?
stream the entire thing because it's going to be 8 hours a day, but might do some highlights at the end of the day. What's up?
You think they're gonna put all the defendants on at the same time? Like, is it the same trial that's gonna have all the defendants, or is it gonna be one at a time
I
that gets
think
tried?
they're tried together, so sometimes I actually did read about a couple of things that had I read about one RICO case that had like 110 defendants, and like all of them showed up at the same time, and all of them had a uh, lawyer, and it was just bedlam and chaos inside that courtroom. And they were all yelling about their thing and their thing and their thing, and 100 lawyers all together to do 100 different things, and it was a mess, and it couldn't be situated. I don't think they're going to have all 18. I think that at the very beginning, they will have all of them in there, unless specifically your stuff got moved to the federal case, which Eastman is having his stuff pushed. Eastman is trying to have his stuff become a federal issue so that he doesn't have to sit in there with all the rest of those people. He's saying the things I did were for a federal, were in my role as a federal officer, and for the president, who is a federal position, I can't be tried in the state. It's just not legally sound. So he is pushing his lawyers to make this a federal thing, and if he gets his way, he then might not be on there. So it's down to 17. And then if some of them flip early or take plea deals, because none of them have pled guilty or innocent yet. So some of them are going to say either guilty or give me a plea deal. I plead guilty if you go easy on me. I suspect a bunch of them are going to do that, and they won't be up there with that 18. So that brings us down 17, down to 16, down to 15, down to 14, and hopefully there's a decent, a manageable number within the thing. But it could turn into a circus.
Well, for my entertainment's sake, I hope it does.
Yeah, content, baby. That's Shinsinto says it too. That's how I get my collective hours on Kick. Yeah. Uh,
There you go. I mean, court proceedings, for as boring as they sound, can be highly entertaining.
yeah.
You ever did you ever watch the Johnny Depp trial
I watched
against Amber
the
Heard?
highlights at the end of the day because I was at work during the day, so I couldn't like watch it live. I watched a bunch of live streamers cover it at the end of the day. I watched the highlights and the clips and stuff like that, and that was very entertaining because these are two beautiful people having drama.
Oh man, there's just the whole thing was amazing though. Like some of the witnesses that got called up were just total clowns. Uh, and it was just fun to watch to watch people get grilled.
hmm hmm
It was great.
Yeah, and
Can't
then
wait. I hope this is similar.
yeah, people were live streaming it. People were live tweeting it. It was a whole thing. It might be similar to that, except uglier. Uh, uh, while we're still on the DeSantis train, let's look at strategist says DeSantis memo leak is the dumbest thing I've seen in a long time. They're baffled by the leak, which contained guidance for the Florida governor's strategy in the GOP presidential debate. So, in this debate that's coming up, there were 4 important tenets that DeSantis needs to do. So, the DeSantis people came up with a memo gave it to him. He read it. He's comprehending it. This is his strategy for the debate. Number one, attack Joe Biden and the media. Number two, state DeSantis's positive vision a couple of times. Say all the positive, hopeful things that he wishes for. Hammer Vivek Ramaswamy in a response. Just attack that guy and defend Donald Trump in absentia in response to Chris Christie's attack. Because that's the hints we've gotten from Chris Christie. Chris Christie has talked shit about Donald Trump and is attacking him, saying don't vote for the guy that's being indicted for attacking the country.
Yeah.
So this is his plan.
I mean, I don't see anything that you wouldn't already expect from the debate stage in the first place.
I
every-
expect him to attack Donald Trump. When your enemy has a weakness, you attack it. When Donald Trump sees a weakness in any of these people, he gives them a fake name, Lion Ted and Meatball Ron, and he attacks them violently, not violently, but verbally attacks them and says mean things about them, insults the physical appearance of Ted Cruz's wife, calls Ted Cruz's wife ugly, and these guys aren't doing that back. They're defending him, except for Chris Christie.
Number 4 is definitely a possible misstep. I think that he's still playing the try to absorb Trump's base angle, which is not working for him so well right now. So he probably should pivot and be more offensive towards Donald Trump.
Right. They love that. His fans love that. If a bigger, stronger, meaner dog came and was dominant over their dog, they would follow that new, bigger, stronger, meaner dog. I suppose, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If Donald Trump is the alpha and somebody out-alphas him, they'll follow that new alpha, which is what Chris Christie's plan is, which is what generally happens during primaries. Bernie attacks Hillary on problems. Hillary attacks Bernie on his shortcomings. Hillary and Obama got slightly nasty, not super nasty, but somewhat. Shinsinto says his fans love it when Trump is mean to people, but they don't like it the other way. I disagree with you. I think they would love Chris Christie. I think Chris Christie will go up. If he comes out there and starts talking shit about Trump, I think his numbers go up. And if Ron DeSantis starts defending and being nice and rolls over onto his belly and shows his belly, his numbers will go down. That's just my assumption. Do you think differently?
Yeah. I mean, I understand why he's doing the defend Donald Trump thing, but it probably is a misstep. We'll see. If the legal challenges prove to sink Trump or his ability to run meaningfully, then it could be a good place still. He might be banking on the legal proceedings to basically sink Trump's campaign, and then by being the guy that was in Trump's corner, he absorbs that base. I get it. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen. I still don't view the legal challenges to Trump as being particularly meaningful. When it comes to, like, will Trump actually be convicted of anything? I doubt it. So I think this is probably a misstep, but he's banking on the legal challenges probably sticking and being able to absorb the Trump base. As far as the other 3 things, attack Joe Biden, yeah, all of the nominees, or all of the candidates for nominee are going to do that. State his vision, yeah, all of the candidates for nominee are going to do that. And then he wants to attack Vivek Ramaswamy, and I'm not sure why. I'm sure that that's going to end up being on the grounds of the whole 25 to vote thing. So he can come off as like a big defender of the Constitution and whatnot. Or maybe, I don't know if Ramaswamy's been attacking DeSantis at all or not.
I mean, he's the opponent in the race that is closest to. I think Ramaswamy is in third, where DeSantis is in second.
Okay.
I assume, and this is my assumption, that is the reason they picked him. Is Trump's in first, DeSantis is third, Ramaswamy's, sorry, Trump is first, DeSantis is second, Ramaswamy is third, and instead of attacking number one, he's attacking number three. I think that is a bad strategy. Hoping to steal.
He might also be aiming for the VP spot.
I think that he would be, but does he want it? Well, he can't be governor anymore, so I think he has to.
That could be the other angle on his debate strategy here. He's not gunning for the actual presidential or the actual presidency just yet. He's gonna play nice with Trump, and
Mhm.
then if Trump wins the presidency, then, or rather wins the nomination, he's gonna see if he can pull any strings and become the vice president.
Yeah. Do you think that's what this debate is going to be? The running for vice president debate?
Um, Possibly.
Okay.
I could see it. I mean, Trump is far away in the lead right now,
Mhm.
so the playing nice thing from DeSantis, it could be a strategy that he sees as a win-win, where Trump is not going to pick the Chris Christie that attacks, spends the campaign attacking him,
Mhm.
um, but instead picks the one that defended him on the stage, which would would be par for the course for Trump as well.
Mhm.
Um, so he might see that as a win-win, where if the legal challenges do sink Trump's campaign, then he absorbs Trump's base. If Trump does get the nomination, maybe he picks DeSantis for his running mate.
Okay.
And then DeSantis climbs the ladder of power a little more, and then probably runs again for president for real this time in 2028.
Yeah. VPs often do run uh, after they're done being vice president. I think Christie is doing a different calculation. I think he's doing attack Trump now. Trump gets convicted. Trump loses. And then in 28, Christie comes back and says, see, I told you. 4 years ago, I was right. Vote for me. That's what I assume that Christie is doing. I assume that is his calculus and math.
It's possible. He might also just be trying to generate headlines, which is, of course, also one of those things that's invaluable to any candidate in any
Mhm.
election.
Mhm.
So
Okay, so let's do what's next on here. Mm. Trump asked judge to schedule his federal election interference trial for 2026. Oh, geez. Would you stop videos? Good Lord. All right. Anyway, the judge asked Trump's. Let me start over. Trump's lawyers asked the judge to schedule his federal election for 2026. Jack Smith has suggested January, this coming January of 24, but his lawyers have said 2 years after that. And the important reason that they've chosen this date is such overwhelming discovery is set a reasonable trial schedule, the size and scope of discovery, and complexity of the legal issues. There's too much evidence. There's too much evidence, Your Honor. There's no possible way we can read it all. I think to illustrate the size of the vast volume of discovery at issue in the case, they said in a filing that after receiving the government's first production of roughly 11.5 million pages of evidence, 11.5 million pages of evidence, they began trying to download the files, but 2 days later, it was still downloading. This is a new, novel legal theory that if there's too much evidence, the lawyers can't read it all, which means we have to delay the trial.
well, I mean, that's pretty much how all proceedings work in court. Is for example, if you give the court a filing,
Mhm.
right, and that filing is 200 pages long, and your court date is set for Monday next week,
Mhm.
or actually, let's just say this Monday.
Mhm.
The judge is you're going to appear before the court. The
Mhm.
judge is going to look at that 200-page filing that he or she still has not managed to finish reading, because the judge has plenty of other things to look at too, and going to go, all right, we're pushing the date on this back to 2 Mondays from now.
Mhm.
So another 14 days, and by then I'll have read this 200-page document to see what you guys are talking about. And this is the lawyers saying, hey, we need more time to read all this.
They need 2 years
This
to read it.
Well, with 11.5 million pages.
Most of it.
Disney World thrill
Good
feel like?
God. Fucking internet. I hate the internet. God. That's why nobody uses you, internet. That's why they're all on Twitter, where they also get ads. But anyway, I'm sorry. You're right. 11.5 million pages of evidence is a lot.
There's 365 days in a year, so that's times 2 is 700 and well, I'm just going to multiply that 365 times
Well, they've done the math.
730 in 2
They've
years.
they've done the
So
math. They need 99,000 pages a day if you're going to read it cover to cover. They estimate that if they began reviewing the documents as of today, we would need to proceed at a pace of 99,000 pages a day to finish the government initial production by its proposed date for jury selection.
when is the proposed date for jury selection? Is that in 2024?
It's probably going to be about a month before, so in December. This December.
Oh, okay. So we're talking this December is in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
3.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
So 3.5 months.
Yeah.
They have to read the 100,000 pages a day. I mean, I don't see how it's unreasonable to ask for an extension.
Most of that evidence came from Donald Trump. His defense lawyers already have access to his entire Twitter DMs, which is where some
Okay,
of this came from. They
this
have
doesn't just
access to.
from his stuff. This is from everyone around him as
Right.
well.
You
Like,
can sort that out. I bet
this is
half of that 11 million is from him. You know. So sort it out that way. Hire a handful of lawyers to dig through it. I don't feel bad for them, is what I'm saying. A lot of
okay.
this, yeah, I'm thinking that a lot of this came from him, was generated from Trump. They already have access to him and all of his stuff. If they didn't, if they weren't looking at the things that were evidence beforehand, then I guess they're really bad lawyers as well.
Well, they would also have to have access to all of his lines of communication, which a lot of this is going to be from when he was still president. Do
Hmm.
they have access to all those things, or did the government provide it
Okay.
in
All right.
this discovery?
I could see that. I could see specific government documents that his lawyers don't have access to because he is no longer in the government. If he hired one after he left, that lawyer wouldn't have access to it. That would make sense to me.
Or any communications from the presidential accounts that that you don't get to keep when you leave office.
Okay.
That kind of thing.
Hmm. But 2026, 2 years. There's a strategy in that.
I mean,
There's a strategy in that, and we all know what it is.
Really necessary? Sir,
I swear to God, the fucking internet. Jesus. Getting bombed by auto-playing ads. This is why news sites suck, ABC News. This is why you suck and no one goes here.
well, even 2 years comes out to 15,000 pages a day.
Yeah. First of all, most of it is from him. They already have access to it. And second, they can hire an entire legal team. They could, if he weren't such a broke-ass bitch who doesn't pay his lawyers.
How many lawyers does he have?
Like 3, because it's the only ones that'll work with him anymore. Because he doesn't pay them, and they keep getting in trouble with the law. Michael Cohen was Trump's lawyer. Now he went to jail. Rudy Giuliani is now a defendant in this thing, and he was Trump's lawyer. Sidney Powell, Trump lawyer, is now a defendant. It's real hard for him to find lawyers. And I think that this is just a strategy to try and get a Republican to let him off the hook. Either
Don't you have to pass the bar in the specific state which you're trying to represent a client in order to represent that client in that state?
maybe. I mean, there's
Yes. So
okay.
you have to pass the Georgia bar in order to represent Trump in the state of Georgia, which
hmm
means that your pool is substantially smaller when it comes to
There are lots and lots of
who can
lawyers in
represent
Georgia.
you in Georgia.
There's lots of lawyers in Georgia. There's plenty. There are high-powered, very expensive lawyers within the state of Georgia, and none of them want to work with him for two reasons. One, people who work with him tend to end up defendants themselves, and two, he has a bad track record of paying lawyers. He often
Well,
does not pay them.
the other problem is you have to find the specific lawyers that specialize in things like RICO law. The pool gets smaller and smaller every time you consider one of these facets. So it can't just be any lawyer in the country. You got to find the ones that
And
exist within Georgia, that have
uh-huh.
passed the bar within Georgia, or could pass the bar in Georgia within the next, well, or already were able to whenever this all began. Um,
And if
then you got to get the ones that specialize in RICO law.
uh-huh. So
Um,
that they can charge more. These are
what's that?
special. They get to charge more at that point. They're specialists. These are
Well,
more
yeah.
important lawyers. They get to say, "Oh yeah, I did all this extra work."
Well, you're not gonna find you're not gonna go get a slip and fall lawyer.
Right.
You're not calling for what are they called? What's
Personal injury
the
lawyers. Personal injury
Yeah,
lawyers.
exactly. You're not calling the personal injury lawyers. You're not calling an insurance lawyer. All these guys, they're not going to be useful in your case for RICO and
Mm-hmm.
election fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Your pool of lawyers is very small here, so you got to find the ones that you find most competent that will do business with you, and they're going to charge you a lot. So yeah.
Okay. And if you're a
Um,
competent lawyer in Georgia, you either charge Donald Trump a shitload of money, or you're smart enough to avoid him. Uh, this is a problem he has created himself. This isn't something that the entire DOJ should uh, bend over backwards to accommodate Trump. The man has done damage. They are charging him with doing damage to the country, and if his poor planning means that he can't get a top-notch lawyer, well, that's your fault, isn't it?
Or planning means he can't get a top-notch lawyer. I don't think that I don't think that he has a problem getting a top-notch lawyer. I
He
think that he has a
does. He
problem.
literally does. They
I
won't
think
work
there's
with
a
him.
problem in terms of the pool of lawyers that are available. And it's not even a matter of whether they'll work with him or not, though, because there are a lot of lawyers that will take a case that they think um, isn't going to, or rather, they'll take a very high-profile case um, just
hmm
because they want the publicity for it.
Right. And why aren't lawyers running towards him for this? Why aren't they doing that?
How do you know they weren't?
Because he hasn't taken them. He hasn't brought them on. He's got a shoestring, second tier, backbench legal team right now
How do you know that?
because I watch the news. No, I don't want the ones that are charged. These are the Trump lawyers. No, I don't want the ones that are charged. I want the ones that are representing him. Um, top lawyers hired by those linked to Georgia. I don't know if this is it. Linked to Georgia election probe. Anyway, the point is, if his lawyers are saying this is too much evidence, we can't get through it, either they're stupid or they're unpaid well enough. They're not paid well enough. If you have money, you can then hire 10 people to read those 90,000 things a day, create a database, control F that thing. You hire legal clerks, you hire lower level lawyers to sift through. You give them 1,000 pages. Hey, these are your 1,000 pages. These are your 1,000 pages. These are your 1,000 pages. That's how big law firms operate. You turn in your stuff. They get the work gets delegated out, and they will make it to the thing if they have the money and the time and the expertise. His lawyers are missing some of those. They're either missing the money, they're missing the expertise. Uh, and why would they be missing the expertise? Because they're bad lawyers. Why would they be missing the money? Because Trump doesn't pay people properly. He has a bad habit of not paying lawyers.
Maybe they have the expertise and they don't have the time.
Then hire more people.
Those people also have to have the expertise.
No, they don't. Not law clerks. You can hire, if you are in charge of like a law firm, you can hire 100 people underneath you to work on this document, and they give it to you, and then you double check it, and then you forward it up. That's how law firms work. The guy on top doesn't read every single document. He hires people to do that for him. And if there is not enough time, then you need more people to do more work, right? I mean, that's just basics. We have a deadline, and that deadline is January, and we have 99,000 pages to do a day. Hire 10 people, each of them knocks out 10,000 pages a day or something like that. And that is expensive. I recognize that is a hell of a that is a large expense. And I think that either Donald Trump doesn't have the money to do that, or his
They'll call it an unreasonable undertaking.
That's an unreasonable undertaking.
Yeah.
He knew a year ago. He knew 2 years ago that Jack Smith was doing this, and he didn't prepare for it. That leads to incompetence.
Not really. I mean, the fact is they got the discovery documents, the stuff that the federal government is, or the prosecution is submitting
As evidence, yes.
as evidence,
There's a mountain of
and
it.
they have to be able to review that evidence, and there's a mountain of it for them to go through.
Could an intelligent
Once
defense lawyer have
you
known what most of
maybe
that was going to be beforehand?
maybe,
Could they have
but
been
you don't
working on
know
it for the
that.
past 2 years? Could you have put together a very good guess on what will be in evidence? If you're a good defense lawyer,
I'm gonna tell you what this
2
reminds me of.
years they could have worked on
You
it.
know what this reminds me of
Mhm.
is when someone in the government, there's a law that is going to be voted on,
Mhm.
and they put the law on a congressman's desk 2 days before the law is meant to be voted on,
Mhm.
and the document is 14,000 pages.
Mhm.
There's no way. I mean, yeah, we could go, well, you should have an army of interns to read through this and see if you agree with all of it, but that doesn't make sense. They have to know what they're looking for. You have to know what's in the frickin' bill before you reasonably should be able to vote on it.
Mhm.
Same thing. That it's unreasonable to expect that congressman to be able to read the 14,000 pages in 2 days. The same way it's unreasonable to expect a defense team to be able to read 11.5 million pages of evidence in 3 months.
I agree with the statement that it's unreasonable for a senator to read a 14,000 page bill in 2 days. But guess what? That wasn't written 2 days ago. They didn't come up whole cloth with that 14,000 pages 2 days ago. It's been in committees for 3 years. It's been discussed for years. The people who put it who wrote the bill 3 years ago have been talking about it and pushing it and brought it to the Judicial Committee. Then they brought it to the Ways and Means Committee, and then they brought it to this committee, and then it got voted on, and those people passed it through their committee, and then it added another 1,000 pages to it, and then somebody else put another addendum on there, and then another amendment happened, and then it shows up on their desk. If you were interested in it, you could have been following it for 3 years. And
Well,
at that point, you can just get the highlights. You can say to the interns, hey, what are the highlights? What does this push? Does it do this? Does it do that? Okay, great. And then you can vote on it. And that's fine. I think that's fine.
and that's how we get the little things that slip through the cracks in all these
Yes,
bills.
we do. But those are little things.
But you can't have those little things happen in the courtroom because those little things could actually be big things.
if those little things are little things. You just call them little things. How does that little thing become a big thing? You just said it was
It
a
might
little
be
thing.
something it might be, well, even the little things in the bills can be big things that slip through. Things that work in a way other than was intended, or um, have a much larger impact than is expected from that little thing.
Sure. Unintended
So,
consequences happen.
so in terms of evidence, what if there's a text message that turns out to be a pivotal one in the case that gets overlooked by these interns? That
Then your
that you then like you have to go
defense
over this
is
stuff with a
weak.
very fine-tooth
Yes, I agree.
comb, like
Why weren't they doing that 2 years ago?
because
Why weren't they? They had
you
access
don't
to
know
Donald
what's
Trump.
going to be.
You
Well, of
have
course they
access
had
to
access
Donald
to
Trump.
Donald Trump, but you don't know what's going to be produced as the evidence in the case in the first place. So you might be spending hours and hours going over stuff that's not even submitted as evidence,
Mm-hmm.
and all of those hours are billed for. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
There's no. It doesn't make logical sense to even pay a lawyer to go through that stuff before it's submitted in evidence in the first place.
I'm gonna make the incompetence argument again.
No, there's no.
Jack
There's
Smith,
no.
Jack Smith, prosecutor at The Hague, trying war crimes, has just been announced, investigating you. You get a lawyer immediately, and you get to fucking work. And if you don't, you're an idiot. And Donald Trump's idiocy doesn't mean that he gets to drag this whole process out until 2026.
That's not an idiocy thing.
It's
It's
absolute lunacy,
no. It has nothing to
retarded,
do with it.
redonkulous. I can't.
Nope.
Jack Smith, prosecutor for The Hague. He prosecutes war crimes. I knew about it 2 years ago. And Donald Trump didn't put together a legal team to start to go to work. He's an idiot. Absolute idiot.
No. No, because first off, you wait until number one, there's even an indictment in the first place.
No. You put that
Yep.
shit together, you put them on retainer, and you get them their asses to work immediately.
No. No, that's totally
Could
ridiculous. You would never do it. I would
I
never
would
do
do
it.
that immediately. Jack Smith is a
No, you wouldn't.
nightmare. I would not want to be on the other side of that. I would have been when I Waldo saw that on the news. I was like, oh shit just got real. They didn't just pick some lawyer. They picked a guy who prosecutes war crimes at The Hague. Motherfucker, that's a big deal. That's a big fucking deal. And if Donald Trump didn't immediately get some lawyers working on that, he's an idiot. And weaponized incompetence, says Shinsinto in the chat. I think that's right. His incompetence is going to slow everything down. His lawyer's incompetence is trying to grind this process down to a halt so that they can get a Republican majority who can defund the prosecution, fire Jack Smith, and make it go away.
So I wonder. I really do think that this is a matter of why I don't understand why you think you should have to anticipate what the evidence against you is going to be, rather than being provided with that evidence and that what you're being charged with. Which this is all Sixth Amendment stuff, by the way. I don't see why you would have to anticipate all of the evidence that's going to be produced against you, and then set lawyers to work on things that you think might be produced against you, rather than having that evidence produced against you per our Sixth Amendment, and then being allowed the time to sit down and look at the evidence against you so you can defend yourself.
Why wouldn't you plan ahead? You're arguing against planning ahead. Planning ahead
No,
is a good idea. 2 years ago, Donald Trump was told he is the target of an investigation about the things that happened on Jan 6. And this is the special investigator, Jack Smith. If he didn't immediately get legal counsel and get them to work, he's an idiot.
I'm sure he
Because
got legal counsel,
I'm sure he
and
got
that's
legal
how he
counsel,
produced
and I bet
the
they
things he
sat
was
around and
required
did
to
fuck all
produce.
nothing. If they sat around and did fuck all nothing, they're idiots, they're incompetent. This entire process from the Trump side reeks of incompetence, top to bottom.
Not at all.
Absolutely. If
No, you're literally arguing against our Sixth Amendment.
our Sixth Amendment. I don't remember that one off the top of my head. Do you have it up? Do you want to read it?
Yeah, sure. The accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and the cause of accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have the compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. So this
Mm-hmm.
is the one with due process,
How
and
does
it
he not have all
definitely
that? He
involves,
has all of those things.
because that involves the bit about being informed of the nature and cause of the accusation. So that's all of the evidence that's being produced against you. You have the right to see it.
Yes, he does have the right to see it, and he sees it.
You do.
There's 11
And
million pages of it.
and if there's 11 million pages of it, it must also then be built into the right that you must have the time to actually process that information, right?
Right. I
99,000
agree.
pages per day is not an adequate amount of time.
I think it is.
No, it's not.
Because
Absolutely
this
not.
is all, I'm willing to bet that most of it is already public knowledge. Your Honor, we need to delay this case. I haven't read the entire stack of encyclopedias. Well, no. At some point, we have to assume that your lawyers are not idiots. And I think this is weaponized idiocy. Your
No.
Honor, we can't read this fast. Slow the court down.
The clock starts ticking when the documents are provided by
Hmm.
the prosecution, when
And
evidence is
the
and
judges, yeah.
discovery is given,
Hmm.
and that there has to be a reasonable amount of time from that point until or to be able to actually read the evidence against you before you move on with legal proceedings.
I agree. I think that if there's enough, if they wanted to
Okay,
look
you
at them
agree,
all,
and you are taking the absolutely unreasonable view that 99,000 pages per day is a reasonable expectation.
yes, that's reasonable.
No.
Entirely reasonable. If you have competent lawyers, that's reasonable. Yes. Competent lawyers
If you
could get
say
that done.
so.
Competent lawyers could get that done.
If you say so. I think
If
you're
if they can't,
unhinged
they're
on this topic.
incompetent. Yeah,
No, that's totally ridiculous.
I am unhinged on this topic.
Okay, well, great.
Donald Trump is the worst thing to ever happen to this fucking country, and it irritates the shit out of me. I have Trump derangement syndrome. I willingly and knowingly acknowledge it. But the reason is because he's the worst thing that's ever happened to our country. Literally the worst.
Well, then your basis for not giving his lawyers the appropriate amount of time to review the evidence against him has nothing to do with whether or not it's fair and reasonable to have that expectation. It's just because you don't like the guy.
I don't like giving them, he and his lawyers and his side, benefits. The benefit of moving it from January to 2026,
And
2 years
thank you,
later.
sir.
Huh?
Planning ahead does not invalidate the Sixth Amendment.
Planning ahead is a smart thing to do, but he is an idiot. He is surrounded by idiots. His lawyers are idiots. And their idiocy is harming us. I would like to lessen that harm. I think that he is such an idiot. His lawyers are such gigantic, boneheaded idiots that it is causing our country severe harm. And I would like that to stop. I would like to stop the harm sooner rather than later. And the idiocy that they are planning now is we can't possibly read 99,000 pages a day. And I can agree with that sentence. Hey, this is a lot of evidence. Can we move it back? I'm willing to say, yeah, sure, great. Move it back somewhat. Get enough people, hire enough people to read through it, to comb through it with that fine tooth comb, and find out what the answer is. And we'll come to an agreement. But 2 years? There's a plan there. You know why 2 years? So that they can push it so far back that a Republican can negate the charges. They've already talked about pardoning him for the thing. The DeSantis has said he would pardon him. Matt Gaetz pushed through a bill to defund the special prosecutor so that the charges get dropped. And if Trump wins, he will fire Jack Smith and change everybody in the DOJ who does not agree with him.
If the proceedings begin in 2024,
Mhm.
you could probably expect them to take a few months anyway.
Jack Smith said he could do the entire trial in 4 work weeks, so 20 days of trials. 20 days is what his guesstimate was.
So they're going to produce 11.5 million pages of evidence to a jury in 20 days.
No, they're going to highlight the important parts.
All right. So
The
if
evidence will
they
be
have,
there
if they only have 20 days worth of important parts to show to a jury, then why'd they produce 11.5 million pages?
because the man keeps telling you all the crimes he does. He fucking posts it on fucking Twitter. He posts it on the Truth Social. He tells you that he's doing the crimes. And I bet a lot of those documents are also memos and shit that he wrote, which will have to be presented to the jury. The prosecution will have a stack of evidence, and they will point out the important bits to the jury. If the jury has a question on page 9,727, they can ask that question on 9,327. And if the defense says, hey, page 9,327 suggests that this isn't true, here it is, the defense can do that too. The evidence is there for everybody. And the more time you have with that evidence, the more time you have for the fine-tooth comb. So that's why I'm saying prepare ahead of time. The minute you're under investigation by Jack Smith from the fucking Hague is the minute you get a whole team of lawyers to start preparing your defense. If 2 years to prepare a defense is better, wouldn't 4 years be even better than that?
I mean, sure, but it's a matter of when documents were produced in the first place.
A good defense lawyer will know which documents they're looking for and what the investigation is going to look at and could prepare somewhat. They could find all of his public stuff. They could find all of his public stuff and already have gone through it.
Sure.
But then
I mean, that's still, I don't see what your point is, though. I really don't.
the
Once
point
they
is they're
produce the
weaponizing their own
evidence,
idiocy. We're too stupid.
that's not
There's too
weaponizing
much
idiocy.
evidence, Your Honor. There's too much evidence. We can't go through it all. You have to push this shit down the line. And in the meantime, what's he going to do in those 2 years? More crimes, more evidence, more tweets, more discrediting the 2020 election. And then that'll have to get added to the evidence. And then there's going to be another 10,000 pages added to the evidence just from his Tucker interview. There's going to be 9,000 pages of evidence. His Tucker interview next week is going to have 9,000 more pages of evidence. Never stop committing crimes. That way they can't convict you for crimes. Just never stop, never stop, never stop. It's fire hose logic, I suppose. I think what's that thing about drinking from a fire hose? Like he's gish galloping the entire Department of Justice.
Let me see this really quick about this article again. Where is it?
This one, sorry. Jeez, I forgot how to post things. That's what I'm talking about right now. But the gist is, Jack Smith said January, you should have enough time. The defense says no, there's too many documents. We can't even download them all. We're too stupid. Push it back 2 years. But we can't do it in 26 because there's going to be a midterm. So we're going to have to push it back to 28. But we can't really do it in 28 either because there's another presidential election, you know? And then, by then it's too old. It's old news. Who cares? The people have moved on. The voters have chosen. Let's just drop it.
Let's see. So, first of all, this is Special Counsel Jack Smith that has recently requested Trump's trial to start in January.
Mhm.
So he's moved for a trial start date of January.
Yeah.
Right. They are moving for a trial start date in April 2026. So it's not like this was scheduled already in January. They're arguing over when it's going to be scheduled.
Yes.
So this isn't asking for an extension or anything. They're saying, hey, they produced 11.5 million pages of evidence. We need time to review that.
Mhm.
So you don't think that their side should get the 2 years? That you think that Jack Smith's is asking for January election or January trial should be taken instead?
Yes. And I have no doubt he's got politics in mind when he says that. Because guess who's fucking running for president? Donald Trump in the year 2024. There's primaries happening. People are going to have to vote for him. States are going to have to determine whether or not this person who's been charged with harming the Constitution should be on their fucking ballots. This needs to be done soon. I recognize that uh, 2 years and 11 million documents is a lot. I know 11 million documents is a lot, but it's important. Important things get to go fast. The more important it is, that the sooner it should happen.
I think I disagree with that logic. Sometimes important things you do need to take your time on.
I recognize that you need to take your time, and I think that if
Make sure
Donald
we get it
Trump
right.
wasn't an idiot, he would have been planning for this for the past 2 years. If 2 years is how much they need to look through it, 4 years would be better. And the fact that they didn't start 2 years ago, or they're pretending that they didn't start 2 years ago, means that they're either idiots or weaponizing their idiocy. If you were one of those lawyers that we were discussing who is doing this for the publicity, you would hire people to do this so that you could meet the deadline and be considered awesome. Why do they do it for the publicity? Because they want to seem amazing and awesome. And a high-powered, super smart lawyer. A high-powered, super smart lawyer doesn't say, there's too much evidence. We're going to need 2 years to read it all. That's a...
They might if there's 11 million pages to read through.
No, they would say, oh, I'll hire all the people that can get it done, and I'll get it done. That sounds good. That sounds strong. That sounds impressive. That's something that you brag about when someone else is deciding whether or not to hire you. Yeah, you know what? I got 11 million documents from Trump done within time. I am very good at time management and staffing. I'm good at this. These are strengths. This is a strong point to be made in the defense counsel's uh, uh, when he's trying to become promoted, when he's trying to be. I've lost the thread. Don't be an idiot. I'm not an idiot. Look at all this good work I did for Donald Trump. Hire me. I'm not stupid.
If you say so, I'll let you
I know. I'm
have the last word on that one.
very angry. I know. I'm getting worked up over literally fucking nothing. Why am I getting worked up over literally fucking nothing? I should be getting worked up over important things. Not this one. Since we're already all super excited and worked up. A dumb judge said a thing. The aesthetic injury of abortion pills. I know it's a completely different subject and we're changing very sharply directions here, but this came out and it was so redonkulous that I wanted to read it out loud. Okay, so let's see. Let's make sure we're reading from the judge here. From the judge. Unborn babies are a source of profound joy for those who view them. Expectant parents eagerly share ultrasound photos with loved ones. Friends and family cheer at the sight of an unborn child. Doctors delight in working with their unborn patients and experience an aesthetic injury when they are aborted.
Okay.
Doctors are sad when you abort babies, hence mifepristone, the abortion-causing medicine, should be illegal. That is his legal argument from a judge.
Yeah, it's a silly argument,
Okay.
but whatever. It didn't. He was the dissenting opinion, so
I know, but this is why Roe versus Wade was a good idea. Having a law set in place that everybody follows is the way to go. Because if you undo that large, overbearing law that puts everything in place, you get lunatics like this talking shit, making shit up, and you get 55 different state laws for 50 different states. And 12 more that are changing their law next week. And then 12 more that are going to be unchanging last week's changes. Chaos.
well, this is a dissenting opinion, so the law didn't change.
I know, but he's pushing for it to be changed. This is the feelings-based argument is what he used, and it got shot down. Yes, but he's going to continue to push that feelings-based argument, and then other people are going to vote for Republicans, and then the Republicans are going to hire select judges who are then going to do the more feelings-based stuff.
Sure, and this is his argument for standing in a trial like this,
Mm-hmm.
where, in theory, it is pretty difficult to get standing in the first place to bring lawsuits against things like an abortion pill.
Mm-hmm.
And the argument that he's making is that it's similar to how there are lawsuits about like animals or like about nature preserves and whatnot,
Okay.
where theoretically speaking, the person that submits this lawsuit against like let's say that there's a company that gets a permit to chop down a forest somewhere
Mm-hmm.
and build a construction zone or whatever, and a an activist group submits a lawsuit to try to prevent that permit from going forward. They would do that on aesthetic grounds, and that's I think what the article kind of outlines in here. To apply it to an abortion pill, I think is probably pretty silly, but he's just making a dissenting argument.
Okay.
I don't know. It's
I
whatever.
I think we agree on that. That it is pretty silly, but I'm worried that the silliness will continue. There used to be a large case that would prevent this kind of silliness.
Well, I think that
But we got rid of that. And I think that was a bad call.
I can see the logic he's using, but I don't think that it applies in the same way. So
That was
yeah,
just
like
yeah.
he's outlining the way that someone could gain standing, and was it the fact that I mean, was the lawsuit thrown out for a lack of standing in the first place?
I think so.
Okay.
Shoot. Okay, so yeah, it was just a very silly sentence that I wanted to read, and it reconfirms my priors. So that's why I brought it up. That most of these people are just doing things based on feelings, and now they're trying to, at worst, legislate the feeling a doctor has is the idea that that should be held in the feelings of the doctor are the important part that the law should take into account. I didn't think that you were
Ken
gonna.
Cuccinelli, that's a
Oh yeah. This is the Republi-nomicon. Dun dun dun. So, um, almost as a uh, public service, I'm reading through the 2025 Mandate for Leadership. This is the third time I'm going to be reading through it. We're on page 165. My God. I read through it, look for stuff. So, what is this? This document was created by the Heritage Foundation. Let me put it on screen, derp. Be a better streamer. Okay. So, let's just Google what it is. What is Project 2025? So, um, led by experts associated with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. No, no, no. There are multiple Project 2025s. Let's see. Let's see if it's got a definition here. Geez, these guys summarized it already. But anyway, um, the idea is that the Heritage Foundation put out like a playbook.
okay.
It's past time to lay a groundwork for the White House that is more friendly to the right. The policy book Mandate for Leadership represents the work of more than 350 leading conservatives and outlines a vision of conservative success. The usual suspects, yeah, okay. So they've put together an actual playbook, like a specific plan on doing all the things. If Trump wins, they want him to take this book. They want him to read it and then do it. I don't think Trump's ever read a book in his entire life, so he will give that book to someone else to read and then do all the things that it says. And this interests me because I am a terrible, terrible nerd who wants to know what their actual plan is. The governor of Florida talking shit about trans people isn't a plan. You know, Donald Trump tweeting isn't actually a government plan. He thinks that they are, but they're not. You actually have to fill out paperwork and then pass laws and then get things put in front of the appropriate committees and stuff like that, and then have them vote on it and then check mark it and then stamp it, and then the parliamentarian has to take it to the thing. There are a lot of things involved with our government. It's not just all tweets. So they actually put together this plan on things that need to be done. And I think it's interesting to read it because it's filled with ideology, obviously, but it's also filled with actual things that we could discuss on what's a good idea and what's not.
All right.
I tend to skim a little bit and pick out anything that I think is important or interesting, um, and read in a scary voice because it is a very frightening and mostly fictional book. There's a lot of fiction in here about how great Ronald Reagan was. All right, so we're on Department of Homeland Security by Ken Cuccinelli. Primary recommendation. Our primary recommendation is that the president pursue legislation to dismantle the Department of Homeland Security. After 20 years, it has not gelled into one DHS. Instead, its various components, different missions, have outweighed its decades-long attempt to function as one department, rendering the whole disjointed rather than cohesive. Breaking up the department along its mission lines would facilitate mission focus and provide opportunities to reduce overhead in lieu of DHS. Blah blah blah. Okay. U.S. Customs and Border Protection be combined with immigration and customs enforcement. U.S. citizenship. Oh, they just want to combine all these things. I don't care about
Yeah, this
combining
actually
them.
doesn't look bad at all.
I'm not
Look,
super against the idea. I want to abolish ICE, but
well,
bringing
yeah,
them
what they're
in and
doing
making
here
them a thing.
is um they're saying these different parts of the DHS all have missions that are so separate from one another that they really shouldn't be under the same umbrella.
Well, this would
That's all it's
combine
saying.
them. This would combine them under the same umbrella. CBP,
No,
ICE, USCS,
this is
HHS
splitting the
combined.
DHS into a bunch of components, saying that we should have a I imagine they're going to create. Where is it? Yeah, so they're saying instead of having a Department of Homeland Security, we should create and that's the end of this first bullet point is a
Mhm.
standalone border and immigration agency at the cabinet level. So rather
Mhm.
than having a DHS, we should have a immigration service, immigration services agency at the cabinet level. A um, handful of these other parts be
Brought
moved
in.
into
Yeah.
different parts of different things the uh, like FEMA being part of the Department of Transportation
Mhm.
or Department of Interior. The Coast Guard be putting into the Department of Justice. The Secret Service moved partly into the DOJ and partly into the Treasury.
Mhm.
Yeah, this seems fine.
I'm not ideologically against the idea of reorganizing them. Not a problem for me. I'm ideologically against putting a Republican in charge of that, but not the reorganization. Just move some stuff, move some U.S. Coast Guard, move the Secret Service to Department of Treasury. Okay, transportation security be privatized? That's a fucking nightmare.
That's an interesting one.
That's a very common Republican answer to most things, though. Is take it away from the government and let a company do it. But
Well, the TSA is historically incompetent, anyways.
they're bad and they're slow. But
Yeah.
if they become privatized, that changes how they're bad and slow.
Yeah, they probably become more expensive, if I had to guess.
Right, they would be more expensive, and then if you if depends on how you would get promoted. If you were a TSA agent in a private thing, would you get promoted by finding more stuff? Would handing out more infractions increase your job standing? I could see
I don't
that
know.
being poorly planned out, and then everybody gets hit with 1,000 little infractions because this guy wants a promotion. You know, Science and Technology Director would be moved to DoD, and the Office of Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction would be moved to the FBI. It's fine. See, it's not. I'm not against moving them around. Um, I'm sure against putting Republicans in charge of these things. Department of Homeland Security protects the American homeland. Cool. Cyber realms. Cool. And this like it literally has the mission statement so that the Republican who is elected can look at this book and read it and comprehend what the Homeland Security does. I guess they're best case they're just being thorough. Worst case, they think that Donald Trump's head is empty and he's surrounded by people whose heads are empty and don't know what these things are and need explanations on what these things are and what they do. And I'm not saying I know all of this, but if I needed to know what specifics were, I would look for a guidebook. I mean, I would look for this is the Republican government uh, owner's manual right here. So, unfortunately for our nation, the federal government's newest department became like every other federal agency, bloated, bureaucratic, and expensive. It's also lost sight of its mission priorities. DHS has also suffered from the left's wokeness and weaponization against Americans, whom the left perceives as its political opponents. So yeah, this is the silly fictional opinionated parts. To truly secure the homeland, a conservative administration needs to return the department to the right mission, the right size, and the right budget. This would include reorganizing the department and shifting significant resources away from several supporting components to the essential operation components. Okay, great. Um, Prioritizing border security and immigration enforcement, including detention and deportation, is critical if we want to regain control of the border, repair the historic damage done by the Biden administration, return to a lawful and orderly immigration system, and protect the homeland from terrorism and public safety threats. This also includes consolidating the pieces of fragmented immigration system into one agency to fulfill the mission more efficiently. Uh, okay. Has there been historic damage done by the Biden administration?
I
I'm
believe there has been historic levels of illegal immigration under the Biden administration.
okay.
Whether you would call that damage or not is up to you.
Yeah. Let's see. A successful DHS would secure the secure and control the border, thoroughly enforce immigration laws, correctly and efficiently adjudicate immigration benefit applications while rejecting fraudulent claims, secure the cyber domain, and provide the states and localities with a limited federal emergency response and preparedness, secure our coasts and economic zones, protect political leaders, and oversee transportation security. Those are fine statements. I just don't want a Republican in charge of those. I think they would do a bad job of that. And this just talks about like I personally don't know what the hell the office of the secretary does. But if I needed to know, I would look at a book like this. So that's the reason for this book existing.
Well, the office of the secretary would be the secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and like that cabinet level position, right?
Mm-hmm. To ensure the
So
effective
this
operations
is the
of
table
DHS.
for whoever takes over that cabinet position.
Yeah. And so yeah, this is why I wanted to read it, because if a Republican wins, they will be given this book and said, "Hey, here's the things you ought to be doing," and I would like to know what they're going to do.
I mean, it all seems fine to me so far.
Yeah, it's not a nightmare, other than the obvious opinion things that I don't like and would disagree with. Describing the position and explaining what they do seems fine to me. And then we can actually argue about things that have substance rather than what Trump tweeted about a certain person on Tuesday, because that's not actually a real thing. Let's see. An aggressive approach to Senate confirmed leadership positions. That was something they complained about a lot in like the first chapter, is all the seats that Donald Trump left open, and administrative voids he had because he wasn't a typical politician. He didn't know that he needed to fill all these positions, and the people surrounding him weren't typical politicians as well. So they also didn't know about all these appointments and tiny little administrative things that needed to be done. Clearer, more durable, and political line of succession. I don't think that matters all that much.
Well, that one does matter. Actually.
Think so?
Yeah, I was just reading that.
Based on previous experience, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We had or actually, the Department of Homeland Security had like an acting head only for like years.
Right.
And the acting
I remember
head
that.
kept switching.
Yeah.
And that acting head doesn't actually have like the ability to set like permanent agency solutions
mm-hmm.
or agency actions and regulations and whatnot. So they're just saying that, yeah, if you're the acting secretary, you should have the authority to do that.
I don't like that idea. They were acting because they couldn't get confirmed by the Senate because they were shitty people with shitty ideas.
Or because the Senate refused to confirm the opposite party's candidates.
Based on what? The fact that they're shitty people and would fail. If the Dems are in charge of the Senate and Donald Trump puts somebody up, they would vote and he would get voted down. That's good for the Dems. But if the Republicans are in charge of the Senate and the Dems aren't, if he's not going to get enough votes, Mitch McConnell isn't going to bring it up for a vote. So he just gets to be acting all day.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of a problem when it comes to actually running the institutions of our country.
Right. Republicans can't run our country because they're shitty people who can't get confirmed.
Oh, stop.
They're shitty people who can't get confirmed.
As if the Democrats are any different.
They literally are. I'm telling you, they are better.
No.
The acting people are acting.
Right.
Donald Trump likes acting. He said that. I like acting. He didn't know what the word meant. He talked about it one time. They were like, "Hey, Mr. President, why do you have so many acting authorities, and he's like, "Oh, I like acting. I like acting. It's good." He thinks it was an action verb, so acting sounds like he's doing a thing. Also, they don't have to get Senate confirmation. Yes, they have less power, but this would give them more power. I think that's a bad thing. There's a reason those people couldn't get Senate confirmations. And you're suggesting that the reason they couldn't get Senate confirmations is because they were being harmed
It's
by the
political
opposite
gamesmanship.
thing. Okay, great. I know that both sides do that, and I recognize that the Democrats are going to do that as well. But I don't think they're doing it on partisan basis as often
Oh, sure they
as
are.
the Republicans. No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
They they
They
no,
100% are. Yep,
absolutely not. They are
absolutely
doing it
100%.
for political reasons, sure, but those reasons are founded on the basis of it being a good idea.
According to you.
Yeah, because good ideas can be voted for and bad ideas can be voted down. That's okay. That's good. We like that. I like that. If uh, that's just politics, and we're getting into that thing where I say things are political and it's okay. Again, okay, we're moving on. Sorry. Uh, reconstructing a redistribution of career personnel. See if it's anything here. I don't think there's anything there. Grants for federal funding. It gets a little boring. Yada, yada, yada. Non-use of discretionary guest work. Yeah, that's why everybody's, the internet has condensed this down into web pages. But I wanted to read through it anyway. It's very boring. I'm sorry, chat. Thank you for being with me, all three of you. Or do we bump down to two? I don't mind. This is boring. I thought it would be more fun. But now I know. Let's
I
read
don't
through
know.
that.
The Heritage Foundation is making a lot of sense here.
Well, because they're just describing facts that actually exist. That the Secretary of the Office of Trade and Trade Relationships, I mean, there's not a lot of uh, back and forth, left and right difference on that position. You know, I was hoping for more fun stuff. The first couple of chapters were full of the fun stuff, but now that we're in the meat, it's actually kind of boring. Okay, here we go. Here's one maybe. Order ICE to stop closing out pending immigration cases and apply the Immigration Nationality Act as written by Congress. The Biden administration closed out tens of thousands of immigration cases that had already been prepared and were slated or expedited removal processings or hearings from the U.S. Immigration Court. This misguided action constituted an egregious example of lawlessness that allowed thousands of illegal aliens and other immigration violators to go free in the United States.
Okay.
Order ICE to
So,
stop closing out pending immigration cases. Okay.
so apply our laws as written by Congress.
Okay.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
The Biden administration closed out tens of thousands of immigration cases that had already been prepared and were slated for expedited removal processing or hearings for the U.S. Immigration Court. If the Immigration Court is overwhelmed, I could see cases being dropped.
Sounds like we need to expand the immigration court.
I would love the idea, but I think it's Republicans who keep cutting it. This misguided action constituted an egregious example of lawlessness that allowed thousands of illegal aliens and other immigration violators to go free in the United States. Okay. I would like them to follow the laws. I agree. But if the laws are shitty and the government has leeway on what to prosecute and what not to prosecute, it makes sense that they would drop some if it's not a big deal. Direct ICE to stop ignoring criminal aliens identified through the 287 program. Ultimately, Congress should prevent ICE from ignoring criminal aliens identified by local law enforcement agencies that are partners of the 287 program. I don't know what that is, but I don't believe them. However, before congressional action, ICE should be directed to take custody of all aliens with records or for felonies, crimes of violence, DUIs, previous removals, and any other crime that is considered a national security or public safety threat as defined under current laws. I agree with this, but I don't know that that's happening. I don't know. This sounds made up to me.
I think that our Immigration and Customs Enforcement office currently either cracks down or is very lenient on doing their job based on who is in office.
Right. That
Because when you get that new guy in office, he directs them to either crack down or be lenient. And right now, I'm sure they're being quite lenient.
right.
So this is saying, yeah, we got to stop doing that.
Okay. Ignoring criminal. I don't. I would need some evidence that they're ignoring criminal aliens identified by local law enforcement agencies. If the local law enforcement says, "Hey, this guy committed a crime," they're doing nothing about it because he's an illegal immigrant. That doesn't make any sense. I don't think that's a thing. I don't think the local cops are like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, that's an illegal immigrant. We can't talk to him. We can't arrest him. Just go on with your crimes. Have fun." I don't think that's happening. That seems unlikely to me. But I don't know the details of the 287G program. So it's hard for me to have an opinion without making things up, which is what I do all the time. Eliminate TNU visas. Victimization should not be basis for an immigration benefit. If an alien who was a trafficking or crime victim is actively and significantly cooperating with law enforcement as a witness, the S visa is already available and should be used. This is just slight changes to the visas, not super up to date on them, so it's hard to make things up. Prioritize certain ones. Most of the foregoing can be accomplished rapidly and effectively through executive actions. That is both lawful and appropriate when we do it, but not when Biden does it.
Well, it is the job of the executive branch to properly enforce the laws as written by Congress, right?
It's their job to execute the law.
Yeah, it's their job to execute the law. So aren't they supposed to do that?
They're supposed to do it to the best that they, in a way that they think is best. They execute the law. They
So
can
if the way that they
choose
think is
how
best is to
thorough.
not enforce the law, or to not
If
execute the law.
if the law is bad, then I would be okay with that. I do in fact sometimes drive faster than the speed limit, and I do not get caught. If we were executing the law 100% efficiently, we would create cars that couldn't pass the speed limit, or a, monitor that when you go past the speed limit, it alerts the local police. That is an over execution of that law. And it is within the government, within the executive branch's rights to execute those laws in the way that they feel best. By choosing to, by sometimes choosing not to prosecute certain people, it's because they think it isn't a huge crime. This isn't worth the time, the amount of benefit that the country gets from prosecuting a 5-year-old who was dragged across the border is very little. So they choose not to spend a ton of money and time on that. So I can imagine that they would drop some of them.
Now, part of the problem with the enforcement or non-enforcement of these laws is that uh, the Supreme Court 10 years ago, they um, they ruled that people don't have the standing to bring lawsuits against the executive branch for failure to enforce a law, which I think is pretty crazy. Uh, I understand the idea of standing,
Hmm.
but in the same way that that doctor earlier was trying to come up with a way that someone could have standing to be against an abortion pill, I wonder if there is any way at all right now for um, citizens or any groups to have legal standing to challenge the lack of enforcement of a law by the executive branch? Or would that be something that only Congress could do?
I don't know. That's
Because that's pretty crazy to me
uh,
that
you would sue the government for not enforcing a law?
I think that it should be possible.
You'd have to be um, directly harmed by it, I suppose.
Well, right, which would be the idea of standing,
Hmm.
right? Except that these laws they don't directly necessarily harm an individual or even a small group of people. They have implications for the nation as a whole.
Mm. Implications for the nation of a whole starts to get into the soft science of sociology, doesn't it?
Well, we're talking about reforms on
Society.
the federal level, about
Yeah,
our entire nation of 300 and some million
right.
people.
So if it's not harming you directly, then you don't have standing, and that's why they did it. That makes some sense to me.
I just wonder what authority there, or who does have standing in that case, and whether or not it will ever be possible to tell the executive branch, hey, you have to enforce the laws as they're passed by Congress or execute the laws.
I think we're in
Like,
sociology territory, which makes it a politics issue, which means you have to elect the people who will do it the way you want them to.
sure, but at the same time, the people were elected that passed the law in the first place.
Sure, the the legislature made a law, and the executive branch isn't carrying it out the way you want them to. Vote in a new executive branch.
Sure. I guess actually, probably it is Congress, and Congress would end up having to impeach the executive branch for failure to enforce laws.
Right, and we know how much they don't like to do things. Uh, they just want to be podcasters. They just want to be live streamers. Ted Cruz does not want to pass difficult laws. He doesn't want to write bills. He wants to be in front of a TV camera and talk shit. And that is a legislative issue that, I mean, I don't know how we get past that. Uh, they give more power to the executive so that the executive can be blamed for all the things. The executive can make all those decisions, and then they can take credit or discredit anything they want. New policies, more ICE stuff, management directives, regulatory agency, submissions. So it's a little boring. Um,
Find an interesting one to talk about.
yeah, I'll keep scrolling down. This one's administrative changes. Oh my gosh, that's what everybody loves to talk about on a live stream, right? Administrative changes. Um, Parole reform. Congress should end the widespread abuse of parole and contravention of statute and return it to its original. Jesus Christ, I can't even talk. Congress should end its widespread abuse of parole in contravention and statute and return it to its origins as an extraordinary remedy for very limited purposes. Oh, that's so boring. Again, yeah, this is a boring thing to talk about. I'm dozing off, and I'm the one doing it. I might read through here in my own time, but I don't have any time. And then find interesting things to talk about, things to point at. See, now now I am going to debate with you. This is a 920-page book that we are too bored to read through, you know, but it has literal actual plans in it, um,
Uh,
which feeds into the discussion we had earlier about very large bills that a senator doesn't read. If a senator got this and somebody and had 5 different staffers read through their sections and then give him a synopsis and said, yes, this is a good idea, these are good bills, and then he checked it, would you be okay with that? Or does the senator have to read all 920 of these pages before he's allowed to check mark the Homeland Security investigation priorities?
Well, I think that there are plenty of things in here that maybe I wouldn't even agree with.
Mhm.
That I would say that were I a sitting politician,
Mhm.
sitting member of Congress, for example, and this 900 pages was put in front of me as something I was supposed to vote on, I'd probably read all 900 pages. Yes.
Okay. Because that's your job. That makes sense. I can appreciate that.
And then if there were things in that 900 pages that I read, I would probably that I disagreed with, I'd probably move to amend or strike those things from the legislation.
Okay.
But realistically speaking, I'd be upset that this was put in front of me as 900 pages of legislation all together. Like, let's say that this 900 pages did encompass all these different things.
Mhm.
I'd be upset because you could do these things in smaller bills, right? Like the
Mhm.
whole separating the Department of Homeland Security into these different agencies. Well, that by itself
Mhm.
should be a bill, right?
This
Where we're
should be
moving these
900
agencies to,
bills, not one.
right?
Okay.
This should be a whole bunch of different bills that are much smaller in length, and I should have the opportunity to read each one and vote on each one separately. But
Mhm.
that's not how we're doing our bills nowadays. We're doing our bills as these massive 14,000 page ridiculous documents that it takes, you know, a month to sit there and read through, assuming you did that every day.
Mhm.
And yeah, you can have staffers to read through parts of it, but it's the sort of the unnecessary complexity of a lot of these things I think is pretty ridiculous.
Okay.
Or not complexity. It's the fact that there's so much there's so many compound bills, I guess I'd call them, where you won't just get that bill to separate the Department of Homeland Security and move the different pieces of it into different branches and just do a restructuring of our government
Mhm.
organization. You'll get that, and then on top of that, you'll get the creation of the media agencies, and you'll get the doing their immigration stuff, and you'll get the changes to the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the
Mhm.
Export-Import Bank stuff all in
Yeah, all
a
in one
single
bill.
bill. And it's like, no, no, do one at a time.
Yeah, I could see that as being a much better plan. I would agree with you there.
And it's all because they all want different things. Like, and
Well,
it's
yeah.
all the political gamesmanship where they say, one side will say, well, we'll give you this, but we want this in return on this other bill, and then they just combine the two bills, and then that's how you get these big messes of bills where there's so much different stuff all going on in all these different unrelated categories, and it's because they're making these deals to trade, but they don't trust each other to uphold their end of the deal unless they're both voting on the same bill at the same time.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Okay. Um, this is boring, so I'm going to quit reading it. Um,
Yeah.
uh, so, is there anything that you wanted to talk about? Any other politics that you want to jump in on, or things that have come up lately?
Uh, Not particularly.
Yeah.
Once I'm able to actually once I have time again, I'll be able to sit down and read more about politics again.
Mhm.
Uh, I've just been ridiculously busy.
Okay.
So,
Well, that's cool. So plans for the future. I am going to probably do another uh, a game stream on Monday night. I'll just cruise down. I literally just open Reddit politics and scroll down it to see what is in the news. Uh, then quick comment on every single stupid little headline that I see, and zero in on anything that seems more interesting. I was gonna watch that Trump proving everybody wrong on Monday, but now it's not going to happen. So that's sad. Um, and then maybe I'll play a video game. Uh, you're welcome to come by for that or not. Up to you. It's just based on your schedule. Usually I do like Monday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. and then Saturdays at 10. So I try and keep that schedule. And as always, just send me any links or anything that you think would be interesting to talk about. We haven't had any big overall uh, uh, philosophy type debates. Is there any subject that you would want to talk about? Chat, is there anything, any big philosophy style thing that you would want to talk about? And you too, Thomas, is there anything specific? Any
I'm
big
sure we could come up with something.
policy or philosophy type thing that you'd want to discuss?
I'm sure we could come up with something.
Okay. All right. Well, that is it for today's stream. I appreciate everybody who came in. Thanks for shooting any links that you have, as usual. If you're chat, throw a link, and we will take a look at it. KVP, you didn't gamble at all today. I'm upset with you. Maybe some media takes next week too. How about that?
Could be interesting, depending on
Yeah.
the media.
Yeah. And that is it for us this week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here, Thomas. My name is Waldo, and you know where to find me. You know what? I think that's why we have such slow viewers, is nobody can find me. This was a mistake.
Maybe so.
I appreciate it, everybody. Have a good day. Goodbye.